Yeah. Get some. Everyone good?
It's not opening. Give me a second. Alright, there we go. Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Or,
Yep, I'm
yeah.
good. Okay, sorry.
In Chastec versus Vito, the Federal Circuit affirmed the new USPTO domicile requirement, ruling that the agency is not bound by the APA to inform patent and trademark holders of shifting administrative procedures back in 515. In 2019, USPTO implemented policy requiring all trademark applicants to provide the domicile address and follow the rules implemented on the notice and comment ruling codified by APA. The Federal Circuit affirmed agency refusal to trademark failure to list the address score found the rule exempt from notice and comment requirement ruling to the Supreme Court candidates of statutory construction. The legal domicile requirement makes it impossible for immigrants with the green card to acquire trademarks and recs situation list 19. USPTO new rule requiring applicants to submit their physical address and immigrants who do not have green card will be able to obtain trademark registration with legal domicile impacts small business to PO Buck longer. Let the applicant forward specifically those immigrant entrepreneurs provide remittances which are vital for project businesses and reducing poverty and developing countries. Williams 12. My opinion of effects of remittances found able to develop remittances from an entrepreneur and develop business and other kind of demonstrate remittances to develop more business and home nation key barriers to the me owner's face is actually capital liquidity constraints allowing entrepreneur to develop business and remittances payment making entrepreneur operating informal now the economy of nations key barriers opportunity and opportunity for nation and remittances active capital development for a formal business venture developing economy solving extinction reducing volatile pandemics conflict political stability and corruption boost global governance walking here 22. Development reduces the volatile conflict of debit get richer people get educated and part of the institute improve quality of work up to having extension risks and other global challenges poverty spend disease and climate enable country to invest in infrastructure vehicles only pandemic poverty extension risks facts and security development country poverty corruption disability weak state and gender sharing requirements development future and improving global governance community to catastrophic risk. Independently, the Chastec ruling gives the PTO free rein to abandon notice and comment rulemaking and arbitrarily change the procedures that eviscerates reliance interests. Question 24. Whether PTO subject notice copy exception board is exempt PTO from any need for any ruling condition renders APA and FT just for exception. Eviscerates huge jack and ancient blow cognitive opportunity encouragement on rise NIT give party warning of impediments between law and opportunity to be heard even monitoring agency approach. About millions of people and billions of dollars. Use PTO rulemaking is uniquely destructive to reliance interests. Regulations theory inertia. The courts and Congress are willing to challenge Golden 13. Advantage of the USPTO having guided panel law development with inertia with court. Some Article 3 of Congress higher rules PTO contain reasonable faith to challenge concerns. But reliance into rights and inertia and only because they follow hand in right direction and appropriate speed. Versus comes to use to nobody secure patent law success even without travel and everything USPTO ruling gives an effect on that patent law. IPO protection is being driven by predictable and certain legal processes is key to stabilize reliance interests. Kuwait 6. An issue that impact on IP protection changing the terms of after rights of investment. The issue is altering legal rules in light of subsetting reliance interests and rule change so unforeseeable investment undermines their consequences. If a unexpected change may occur in the future, investor less interpreted investing at the level situation not greater, because if fear become widespread within public rights. Without public input, a rogue USPTO director can inadvertently obliterate the value of intellectual property with even minor procedural rules. 124. Exemption is problematic and causes demand office ahead of a single director can act without any approval whatsoever. PTO rulemaking. Now, even less recording prior EPA impact on the economy normally IPA has a major share some 1.2 on DGP PTO procedural rules have profound impact on value IPO's issuance procedure changes scope of existing patents greatly to which values federal conclusion throughout the national economy. A recession now causes global war extinction now to defeat. Throughout history, wars began because economic had we sitting upon a keg. All we need is party called water, coffee, Ukraine, and Balkans, Azerbaijan, Israel. Region called world to serve during economic long change treaty, use and so economic public Taiwan, appealing to invade people from discontent nationalism. Goes out with the spark next over to economic hardship fueled by alliances. The plan solved. The Federal Circuit decision will perfectly through the decisional system absent reversal and requiring notice of common reversal of the domicile address rule goes from 24. This case presents a huge considered question for that pin to hold the reference policy does not mandate notice called ruling and argument effect will company reason for reversing Peter rejecting course may never see another vehicle raising this important issue. The decision will be the final word. The act reverts to the pre-Chastec environment where the USPTO had to adhere to notice and comment, which was the norm for decades, goes from 24. The AIPA of 1999 amended to Section 2B2 required rules upon the get check by through required notice and amended of PTO undertake notice and comment rulemaking plan. The United States federal government should clarify that cross reference to Section 553 and 35 USC Section 2B2B does require notice and comment rulemaking. Advantage 2. The Chastec ruling new constitutional separation of powers of 1823. Constitution by SCP means to protect individual liberty after Constitution horrified by Section 18 as limits required administrative procedure act requiring NC rules encourage legality of administrative agency constitution specified procedures laws made review especially in word because lawmaking by administrative agencies wrote SCP and central protection and private interest laws protection and attack on individual liberty and procedure. All left examples of SCP restrictions on the lawmaking powers by means we found generations of liberty future generations. SCP checks nuclear war Adler 11 is Tennessee President war without Tennessee abuse power and presently law codes so that time to begin the war power power checks on God North Korea Vietnam after nothing more valuable than trying to be allowed war making the atomic weapons might lead to the incarceration of the planet. Agencies have every incentive to forego notice and comment rulemaking absence strong enforcement worse than a barrier 24. Agencies are inevitably incentivized to avoid NEC absence wrong judicial enforcement first incentive will put agency to avoid requirements accountability require reason responsible criticism agency now find more and convenient to quickly achieve their goals. Now is the brink. Global review Ramondo triggered massive backlash to notice comment rulemaking Murata 24. Shoving instead of agencies NEC procedure because only NEC rules were eligible for deference without deference the agency would look more to less formal procedures to increasing frequency. Skipping notice and comment definitionally disrupts from line features, cashing capital intensive investment in infrastructure and energy. Versions 21. Parties should behave around regulatory present well on action except change under widely right condition. Notice common ruling which be deliberate to take one over ruling on top of independent settle vast other actors can applies with equal vigor. Time active regulatory change, contemplated contemplated board lines plus confer. In fact, for example, made infrastructure centered in capital fixed assets must alter these and more. Establishment of laws. Infrastructure prevents extinction and drives several untalked crises, including water scarcity and social collapse. Comment 15. Systemic risks occur when parts individually function spill over critical infrastructure, so now depend on each other, water supply chains for fuel. Strongly coupled by globalization, pure cascade infrastructure, emission goes to cloud, large scale, secondary effects, cause accidents, collapse, could spread to the world. Financial system, economy, ecosystem, world system, collaborative countries through trade, poverty, and war. Water scarcity causes extinction. Yeah, 20 new. Speed of global future, by global economy, changes for human constitutes water to global water war, wars, primary driver, speed, security, stability, and compensating saving for future war to world to fund all over the world. Notice the common key to antitrust regulation through the FTC. It fine-tunes regulations and creates predictability ever since 2023. FTC uses the APA nursing common procedure to issue rules concerning unfair competition in Congress made. The Commission independent but conception was also about democracy. Just provide crucial setting check, give the public information, regulation, notice competition, democratize, administrative process, APA give regular party fair notice, and provide open opportunity for involvement over new policy, including revision of FTC's that process today. Antitrust law must be predictable, otherwise, lack of transparency creates a flux of over and under deterrence, which rivals the effectiveness of regulation. Rule 24. If companies meant to be punished for action benefit to the consumer, they will not take such action. If they expect not to be punished for conduct that inflicts harm, they will engage in the conduct. Predictability refers to how businesses can anticipate whether conduct will be found unlawful or lawful. When enforcement is unpredictable, companies do not know in advance which conduct will be accurate with sanctions and not to completely avoid over and under deterrence. Antitrust needs to be both accurate and predictable. Enforcing antitrust against digital collusion optimizes corporate governance of artificial intelligence, ruled out extinction from multiple intellectual crises. Quiz 20. AI can aid in involving tech which includes global risk, nuclear, chemical, bioweapons, or examples of future which humans exist without force. To consider accidentalities, problematic action, or safety solution employed without attention to interaction will be somewhat leading on no impact, potential consider lead pressure. Government collaborating, making government collaborative, not guaranteed to be effective, ecological exist from outcomes. This may be challenging one. Where I consider entry and pockets may be needed to ensure sharing, not only the collusion or unfair advantages that harm society. Any variation from common judicial processes collapses investor certainty and generates feedback loops for TSQ 10. Expectations driving investment in innovation and feedback effects exacerbates initial change decision making have lowest variance, largest tool importance, stability, predictability, and reliability. Pattern reform mechanisms that generate clear, stable, legal, more settled regime provides efficient communication, positive legal change will different language have higher uncertainty about effects, speed, impact, magnitude, duration, and uncertainty where change certain duration is prolonged. Actively investment licensing will have difficulty in closing transaction. Parts of who can influence the process. All mechanisms for law have consequences for perceived not fairness. Given long-term decisions to the best aim, incentive, expectation, perceived fairness having significant impact on innovation. So Richard, I have over a minute left. Anything you want to read?
You want to read the RFK?
Okay, sure. Notice a comment is key to prevent a rogue RFK Jr. from nuking the healthcare system. Gospel 24. RFK Jr. is reporting a proposal to reduce pending Medicare reimbursement levels, reducing access to wheels tremendous influence. Over 82.8 agency might suffer lots of key functions. There are a few limits. You must follow APA, which requires notice comment takes time to be adapted to recommendation from the RFK Jr. South Wales by the priority staff and making federal healthcare without to trust scientific research. Strong defenses are crucial to stave off accidental voucher tax brand 820. World is facing growing biothreats. Research regarding viruses have been reduced spread through the air more deadly. Should pathogen be released, test will might exceed that of the black cat, unplugging major sure about what just new ones. These are constructed constituted private groups. Rogers centers like the Willow means to build about things and tech bases of spirits are falling apart. They go over powerful models designed to train life science knowledge can design new proteins. Low actor could create deadly pathogens hatching out of the facility materially widely global current test to bigger test how projects without president pathogen to defense strong bacteria we're conducting. Okay. Let me just send that out.
Yeah.
Sorry, my computer's just being really slow. Okay, I think it should be set.
Okay, I'll wait for it to come through and then we'll start.
Oh, I think the first doc was empty. I just sent out a new doc that's...
I just got a message. Yeah.
Yeah, the second doc will be more.
You know, it's fine. Let's just start cross, and I think I would look at it
Alright.
during. Okay. What does the plan do?
It says that cross-reference to the APA in a specific section requires notice and comment rulemaking.
Okay, can you explain without rereading the plan text?
It basically means that the USPTO now has to follow notice and comment procedures when promulgating regulations.
What does that look like in the patent/trademark application process?
So if the USPTO wants to make new regulations for patent or trademark stuff, they have to issue like a notice on their website telling people that, hey, this is something we're planning to do. They have to follow the mandated APA procedures.
Got it. Who's the actor of the plan?
USFG.
The branch?
Normal means is the courts.
The courts? Got it. Can you explain to me how RFK will enable bioterror attacks?
Our evidence talks about how he's willing to take down the healthcare system. He's empirically not believed in things like vaccinations.
Okay, yeah, I
He's willing to
understand that he
fight.
like might be bad for healthcare. I don't understand the internal link between that and like terrorists saying, "Oh, let's take advantage of," you know.
Our impact card, the Brent 820 card, says strong medical defenses and healthcare systems in the United States are key to not just deter these cyber bio
Okay, what
attacks, but
evidence
to
says RFK is going to just collapse the entire healthcare industry?
Gostin 24.
I don't think it says the entire healthcare industry.
Well, it talks
It
about-
talks about Medicare. It does not talk about like literally destroying our healthcare system and
Medicare is
enabling
crucial to
adversaries.
like
That's
tens of
fine.
millions of Americans.
Explain to me how immigrant entrepreneurs in the U.S. who are affected by the plan enable development in other economies. Like,
Via
across the globe.
remittances, they send the money that they make in their businesses back to developing countries.
Why is that sufficient to like completely reverse the negative trajectory of development?
Remittances are a huge source of income for people in developing countries. That's one of the main reasons why
Source
people
of
have
it,
been
but
immigrating into the
we're
United
like
States.
I understand that, but I don't think it says that like, this is like going to reverse causally solve the problem of development. It
We
just
think
says
it's a
this
really
could be a
huge-
boost. Where does it say that this will solve like all the issues in Wong?
We think it's a huge internal link that's sufficient to solve the impacts that the Wong and Kier impact evidence talks about.
But that's an assertion. Can you explain to me why it's sufficient?
Because like I said, remittances are a huge source of income flow to people in developing countries, far larger than aid that the United States gives.
Okay, the NAP card, recession now causes global war. Why is now distinct from like COVID, any other recession?
Because right now, global relations, or foreign policy is like in a pretty bad
Why
state.
is that
There are
different
wars
from
across the world.
COVID? Like what meaningful distinction?
We didn't have as many wars going on back when COVID started. This
As many
isolates
wars
several
going?
hotspots that can explode if
Well, okay, this
economic
is-
decline continues.
Why is that like tied to a recession though? It's talking about like regional conflict, but I don't know why. I don't think it says like the U.S.'s crumbling economy will
Well,
cause
it
this
says,
conflict
quote,
to
we're
escalate.
sitting on a powder keg, all we need is a spark that causes a wider conflict, and we think that a large economic decline is
Wait, no, where does it say that the large economic decline would be the spark? Like it
Well,
says
throughout
there could be a
history, wars
spark, but
began because of economic detriment. It's saying, empirically speaking,
this
economic decline
is not
global
about
war.
the U.S. by the way. It's also about like Taiwan and Israel.
I mean,
So
the U.S.
I
is
don't
a
think,
huge global economic
yeah,
power.
but that's
very
not what your
economic
card is about. So
power. It is about economic.
okay.
Alright, I'm sending it. Sent.
How many?
1 second.
You're good.
Let's see. 8. Then I forget what Advantage 1 was called, but Advantage 1, then the industry advantage. Got the timer, Phoebe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Give me 1 sec to download it.
I got it.
Still loading.
Okay, I'm good.
Yeah, we're good.
And/or must be read as and. All three elements must be satisfied. This Gold Team 14 violation F is only one topic area. Vote night. They store limits by allowing tiny subset Fs only are intercalibrate send ground standing year debate. Sex off is ace pack. Lack of it is a voting issue. Makes career prep impossible. Incentivizes vagueness to generics on the app topic. Voter for fairness and clash. Next off is T Congress. IPR protection or statutory coordination action and enforcement not protection. Example 21. Distinct elements. IPR protection and enforcement protection relates to statute of a country's legislative framework. Subject to interpretation of judiciary and enforcing application and discretion. Enforcing HG's violation. They're not Congress. Vote night. 1. Limit 6. So the topic of any legal precedents creating impossible research burden. 2. Ground court action. Deletes core. This sounds like politics. Next off of the IRK, the abstention of the nation state and investment in military power in this scenario planning normalizes conflicts that make gender violence inevitable. The alternative is feminist foreign policy, which prioritizes positive peace and individual well-being to create better policy making, sharing, Kumaskova. 19. Traditional approaches to security towards combat best self to war militarism, both ideal and world having enemies as national feminine needs seen as weak. The military industrial company states to defeat what is seen as weakness, feminist foreign policy, reinforces security through masculinity, femininity, nexus, source of income for any governance is arms trading, coffin materials, production, prioritizes monetary profit over human rights and accountability, women disproportionately effective force working the minds of militarized atmosphere, negatively impacts the way women are treated as norms and rules determine the domination of gender over one another. The situation of a highly influences policy making career that needs from the political sphere to maintain different distribution of power. Feminist college the question concerning the main beneficiary of traditional security frameworks under 10 security. One needs to understand power to gender shift towards security for the individual and positive. Most recent feminist foreign policy well-being. The biggest concern defense conceptual orientation when narrowly defined security policy and multilateral agreements and nationalism maintain hierarchy international peace and hegemony retains the stewardship power to deter conflicts. Feminism is an alternative explanation of the international system, not how it can be restructured to feminist constant of securitization. Traditional means about women in the system, feminist foreign policy is operationally misunderstood. Feminist approach to man's shift is that priorities. Feminist foreign policy commitment to structural change, altering neoliberalist structures. Next off the court, count upon the United States legislature should deny clarifying cross references. Section 533 and 35 U.S. Code Section 2B2B. B2B does require notice and comment rulemaking. The United States federal government to grant remedies for claims rising from ambiguities in cross-reference. Section 553 and 35 U.S.C. Section 2B. B2B does require notice and comment rulemaking. The court has gone rogue, abusing and refusing judicial remedies, destroy the rule of law. They count upon resource legislative control of remedies, reestablishing democratic accountability without full-blown court reform. Harnett 23. The court faces criticism. The court is not doing enough to remedy. The Constitution seeks to reform. The court reduces power court. Allowing nullification principle not limited to degree, probably not dependent on underlying right court. For to detect and abuse the Constitution, intended to structure constitutional remedies by undermining central remedies. Court China adopting remedies seek to reform the court jurisdiction fighting for legislative or right legislators to rear the courts and defending rights. Different approach argues legislative caliber remedies highly important to democratic action and safeguarding rights important to Congress to implement the Constitution. Overreach causing station P220 hope 50 think cooperate over big problems in every economic crisis, health, climate, terrorism, immigration, pressing issues for any life on earth. The rule flawed and induces judging not limitation of power, public release competence. If judges go too far, America's role is linked to world affairs. The American Constitution has been the engine of the great scientific achievement. Next off is the executive. They count upon the United States executive interpreting existing law to clarify cross reference in section 553 and 35 U.S. Code Section 2B2B does require notice and comment rulemaking. The United States judiciary should unanimously endorse that interpretation. The CP revised Chevron deference, but that requires a vague delegation. Walker 16 or new break Chevron deference at the meaning weakening the federal circuit by declaring the authority to interpret it by what Chevron deference until the Supreme Court would be shifting power away. Reviving Chevron is the only solution to climate change and extinction. Green 24. Doing action on climate change and structural activities use its broad powers and judiciary defers legislative action. It's not sufficient. Change will be filtered through the courts. As courts become more conservative and shift away from deference and by the government there can be no legislative reaction away from Chevron takes whole matters away from the second. The solution is exercising essential that the climate change is reforming such as structure for lower courts or about over climate change. We're concerned about mistakes like the accused for the solution for climate policy is administrative law. Yeah, next off is a code counted upon the Office of the Law Revision Council should insert no source revision in the relevant United States Code establishing prima facie evidence that the United States federal government ought to clarify cross-reference to Section 553 and 35 U.S. Code Section 2B2B does require notice and comment rulemaking. It solves without requiring increased protection and reaffirming OLRC's independent role, boosts internal SOP, which contains hyperpartisanship, crossing Block 20, codification of OLRC change or insert substantive text revision that lawyers treat been indistinguishable from enacted title, but those have not been enacted as codified long in Congress. Congress should not vote on this laws interest in doing that. This section encoded by the public appears different from the text that was enacted. The bureaucracy share refused from non-partisan Congress and institution and respect for rules and limits. Rationality, auxiliary legislative institutions produce a stronger democratic system, delegation, legislative branch bureaucracy, members who shoulder share blame to separate powers inside, remove the piece of partisan politics, serves in the common for resolution, make the cut with hyperpartisanship or press optimism that Congress, even during partisanship, preserves its power. As Congress becomes contentious, it's hard to get law passed. OLRC may insert no source of revision that did not exist in enacted law, but the OLRC creates out a whole cloth of a new term will help articulate politics, not alter virus, but difficult to find the many pay attention. Extinction, Brundtland 20, COVID called upon to become more collaborative, highlight vigilance, protect peace, knowledge of tyranny, war, WND, expresses interconnecting global risks, manageable response, partisan politics, temper, effective response, harder to collectively tackle essential that's climate change, nuclear weapons, advantage 1, no development impact, forward 23, development is gone backwards, economic convergence, economists and vision of further the rich, capital and poor, cheap labor, filled and materialized in many places to be considered a fluke, further prosperity, the present track record of development development, which take about investing capital essential to joint value chains will help countries who problem exhortation by their governments and track record development offers free precedent for helpful doing the failure, the government's undercut development, and no reason to absolve or spills over to other countries. And recession's entirely speculative. I've said the rogue PTO director could obliterate IP value, not that they would. All causes and absent powder kegs already exist and can exist. Escalate without recession. The con doesn't cause war. Wall 20. Not think economics impact war. If depression were cause war, there would be a lot more. The U.S. is suffering for the recession at 20 years. Same wars, many unrelated leaders avoid war when it will be long and uncertain. No matter econ leaders not go to war unless quick, cheap with success. The motivation is security. After war, such as trend war, not conquest. Economics are only one factor, more than not the most significant. Also, all causes to economic decline, like black swans, the industry advantage. Chevron thumbs SOP. Other is about presidential powers, not agency rulemaking. So there's no internal link here. Also, no reason Congress controlled by Republicans would ever curtail Trump, but no war. Kurtz 24. Some question presidential authority focused on unstable whether attacks or nuclear attack. No. Should military would stand idly by as the front to the integrity of men and women who serve. There's no button or law enforcement is conferred with top brass and SC quickly overlook changing culture and core values. Senior officials advise whether CNC Trump says the JCS put this tonight simply sweep aside the military. All causes to infrastructure decline. Pamela 15. Infra damage by coronal mass ejection. Cyber conflict. No ed says investments are key to protect the infrastructure. No impact is a terrible launch list when they read real internal plans right now. Water wars, they can't solve water wars globally in other countries, which the U.S. can't control. No water wars for now are 18 stats. Show water not irrelevant for predicting conflict. Water conflicts extremely rare. No wars hitting method of 40s conflict. In probably future relatively common water scarcity. More often music co-opting carbon factors not been yet been identified. It is unlikely the costs are probably higher than solutions. Negotiating AI alliance now without regulation. Sean 18. 9% chance without any intervention. AI will not cause extinction. Rather will take off a lot for researchers to connect safe because AI can powerfully become interpretable and easier to understand. 50%. We will get AI in 2 decades, so take up as much like in the past 8 more fainted. Researching fixing problem. No guarantee RFK will be nominated, and even then other countries will fill in to stop an existential bioterror impact, but no impact costed 20 patents, likely cause extinction 200,000 years without being exterminated at base. Base risk is low, past outbreaks not come close, only extinctions on minority of animals, only mammals, only the Christians other for humans are nor destroyed diverse and capable response to interconnected this increase immune by social low strains, medicine, sanitation, limit damage, text off of the towards reform is declining nationwide. That was 22 when you make sandwiches, corporations not only angry jury or might be a class where this had to run away very even more friend, rolling toward law reform and self-replace law reform limited economic damages, stages step more to come, expanding trademark protection causes of flood litigation, for 65 years impending litigation, social involving with trademark expansion, trademark law offers potential for infinite protection, offers the strongest economic primary strategy, the value of brands, like many companies focus on lawsuits, which will multiply exponentially. Fear of tort clog drives devastating reform that ensures unchecked corporate power, linked turns case, Hubbard 6, defense groups are interested in tort reform and solution to broadcast and tort, liability law, their movement continually increasing the vulnerability for have the common motive to reduce costs for reducing liability by changing court laws in ways that favor defendants, plans for them, lets them get less actors if we use massive publicity campaigns to put agenda in state and Congress campaigns, share common emphasis on efficient rhetoric proposals by attacks on place with NGA system, constant war stories about litigation, exposing map abuse flavor lawsuits to the honorable courts based on anecdote rather than data, more hard at data, unchecked corporate power risk extinction, then 22, many faces action to the corporation and liberal inherence more properly on the government municipalities, competing against taxation, regulation, protections, to monetize human activity, what's left in nature, decade out for a greater future of humanity, producing compensation for civilization for the accidental lands, beginning forest animals, insects, fish, sharks, water, topsoil corporations currently allowed with health terrors before it's too late.
Are you good for context?
Yep.
Okay. Status of the op.
Conditional.
Any theoretical reasons to reject the team?
Just T.
Okay. Let's start with the.
Oh, and A spec too.
Yeah. Let's start with the court's counterclaim. Why does judicial overreach cause extinction?
Our Petrie evidence says that when the public loses trust in the judiciary because they've gone too far, it erodes our entire societal capacity to respond to a myriad of existential risks.
How?
Because if we don't trust the courts to carry out correct decisions, there's no way that we can have effective regulation of anything going on.
Is this about just the Supreme Court or federal circuit and district courts?
The Supreme Court.
So why do people hedge all their bets on solely the Supreme Court and not their local courts?
I'm a little bit what?
Why can't
Actually,
people go to their local courts? Why do they care about
I think it's also about federal circuits too.
Which evidence do you think says that?
The Harnett evidence.
Where?
This says courts broadly.
It says the Supreme Court faces different kinds of criticism.
Yeah, but it's about just overreach broadly, which I think definitely extends to other circuits as well.
So you're telling me that because
Yes.
the Supreme Court is politicized, everyone's going to throw their hands up in the air and say, okay, we can't solve warming.
It's not necessarily solely politicization. It's about the perception of them overreaching on their constitutional authority.
Okay. Does this court's counterclaim fiat the? Okay, never mind. The OLRC counterclaim, does it fiat that cross-reference to 553 and 2B2D does require notice of counterclaim?
It fiats inserting a no source provision.
But it doesn't fiat that like actively helps win the Supreme Court case.
We think it would bypass the Supreme Court case entirely. We don't need the courts to act if we can just insert a no source provision into the relevant U.S.
The
code.
act is saying that right now, like, the USPTO isn't even adhering to the statutes. So, like, if we just modify the statutes, what makes the USPTO adhere?
We'll read the evidence in the block that says OLRC, like, when they insert no source provisions, it's listened to by everyone.
Why?
Because they're seen as like a legitimate body, and this clarification would be good rules for the government.
The OLRC is seen as more legitimate than Congress?
Yeah.
Okay. The executive counterplan, does it fiat that, like, the courts overturn, like, the decision that was bad?
What? Does it fiat that the courts overturn the decision?
Our argument is that
bad?
there was a federal circuit case that let the USPTO go free.
Once again,
Does it
counterplan
fiat-
bypasses any sort of court decision
No,
because
you-
it has the
no,
it has
that-
the executive unilaterally.
You have
do
the
the act.
text quote, the United States Judiciary.
Your whole point is that the PTO is like doing wrong things or whatever. So this counterplan would fiat that the PTO does the right things without the court
Wait,
decision.
which part of your counterplan text fiats the USPTO does stuff?
The executive, the PTO is part of the executive.
So you just, okay.
Alright, that was 219 views. Do you see what's up?
You might need a little bit more. You actually just take all that.
The order is advantage 1, advantage 2. The first like and/or argument, ace peg, T courts, the IR can, the court counterplan, the executive counterplan, the clog PA, and then the code counterplan.
I need to download it real quick.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Alright, everyone
Good.
good?
Actually, okay, yeah.
121, yes, developing economies impact, stabilize conflict, reduce the vulnerability to pandemics and other challenges with the Wong and TR evidence. Yes, spill over to Bloom's evidence says that businesses in the United States are going to send remittances internationally. That was explained in cross-sex. Proving there's two arguments is not speculative. The USPTO is going to destroy trillions of dollars in value of the stolen evidence, which means it's the largest internal link. All causes are going to be present. Yes, recession impact, recession impact, rotating down, smart causes a large conflict, and the one is cross made it very specific that even the smallest spark is sufficient to trigger conflict given international tensions abroad. That's a NAP evidence. Also means we control the large internal link advantage to Chevron's price today. That only notice and comment was only eligible for rulemaking under Chevron, which means that now that Chevron's gone, it's only going to be worse as the Murata evidence. Yes, S&P impact. It constrains volatile executive decision making. As the Adler evidence also implicates that the complex yes investments are key. The bridges evidence says that it's necessary to create a resilient infrastructure. Yes, the impact. The Pavlet evidence says that weakened infrastructure right now causes social collapse and cascades to implicate a variety of sectors, including energy. We do solve globally. Side evidence says that the United States is responsible for resource exports abroad. Yes, water wars. The side evidence also says that instability now is sufficient to cause a conflict. Now AI alignment. Now the Kurdish evidence is very specific and say that AI is being misused. We agree that the regulation does solve now, but the app resolves it by fixing failures in notice and comment. Also, it's not because all the affirmative does is switch back to the pre-2022 status quo, and AI regulation is good. Positive benefits, solving station device, and 21 existential risk balloon, the AI embedded in military, environmental governance, network where risk can be diffused, even systemic lack of understanding does not lead to regulation. We can make catastrophic choices. However, the positive side and automation, climate disaster, and geopolitical IR research growth, justice, health, environment, education, government, everything, civilization, offers intelligence, AI may eradicate water disease, poverty, would be the biggest event in history. Also, last honestly, avoid the risk. Yes, yes, RFK is likely going to be instated. Yes, by your impact, the brand's evidence is the only one that assumes increased technological advancement.
Advantage one, no all causes to decline. Our evidence only says economy doesn't.
Yeah, no all causes decline. Our evidence says the economy is largely centered. T and /or. One, counter interpretation and /or means together in division. Merriam-Webster 22 definition and or use a function word to indicate the two words or expressions to be taken together. Or in division 2 precision, our evidence is the only one citing a dictionary. Theirs is perfectly imprecise. 3 overlimit. They exclude any affirmatives that try to use multiple different topic areas, which is obviously bad for affirmative. 4 functional limits like the campus region, NPL prevent limits explosion. 5 app innovation. Debates just under one topic gets stale over the course of a season, but debates over multiple topic areas are far better. 6 reasonably subscribe out always wider under limited a sped we specify no means not resolution justifies debate around new choice and fair cross appearance obviously have to check key 2 flex 2 course 1 IPR includes informative IPR 4% that IPR protection topics does say legal protection so expanding tradition important topic also guard 2K the paper percent method for measuring IPR protecting 4% of the intellectual property laws important practice and says that the IPR protect rapid and does not include government information nature may not have structure 2 4th laws adequate in looking property rights protection measurement was incorporated by the statute government laws enforcement and non-existent terms of protection for IPR owners and to precision the evidence is horrifically imprecise. Just because IPR protection IPR enforcement is does not mean that IPR protection can be done by the court's IPR enforcement could be subset of protection 3 over limits excluded to the enforcement absolutely the court topic injunction PTF 4 which lives with capital union brand and NPL prevent limits explosion 5 app and energy coverage status is stale but new court cases satisfies legal education mechanisms 6 reasonably subject matter and we find her in the racial IRK 1 for going and when see against a converted opportunity cost came as a defense causal community solves any other model collapse clash of fighters I size the reverter regarding 2 floating face pride actor and utopia fair bad the way sees for a clash or controversy all the 160 for 3 extinction ways utils the only in our RPT way to impact savers life matters if it leave 4 per do both and by Irish on truly Eurocentric our findings are implicated by colonialism and empirics prove and reject that if you have being after possible just something to solve capital well piece of capital artificial uniqueness for politics the court and capital one doesn't resolve relies on interpreting IPRs through rule changes that are completely ridiculous debt legal predictability for investors likely the economy that's going to avoid a safety security for reference to fiasco the OSG recommended is going to reject the writ is rejection of the writ as certiorari there's a pretty as you found the refund you deny written security to brief the question 1. Legion chest check 2. The capitalized APU cogs constitutionally can overturn against Florida has 24 cogs staff yet to be purpose of conduct entertaining federal court dispute legislative to review by the court of these courts about the action by overturning laws of constitution capitalism murder every solves the deficit of use fairness education for per capita the capital of other issue capital protection by given the purpose of specifically normal use effect not a mandate chairman 57 of the task A exemption B use code 5 no impact or actually, I'm gonna scratch that. 5. Terrorism, disease, famine, and eco collapse will likely be judicial independence, contains impact, extinction, kills, anti-courts, particularly ready for a riskier role. We face this epidemic of terrorism, bio, and cyber threats. What is it? Mitigate the criticism, management, under criminality, uncertainty, created for bad activity, and ensuring political chaos threats that require of our critical right to do. Will we survive? We have to destroy every creature of earth, equally the worm and disease, famine, nuclear times, weapons, dissemination, species, equally political, planning, coordination, 6 per votes, 7 per the care plan, 8 the capitalist outputs, curbing, massive dealing, law, destroys investment decision market serving 9% in markets and 13 scab conditionalities bad cost rescue crowds out and kills fairness and clash dispo solves and APA requirements for things excessive PTAB rulemaking value 22 PTAB substitute for procedure requirements that you had an office going to run around the APA within the rule and 32 discussion of PTAB last rulemaking 30 PTOs science particular opinions binding about 2007 receiving other agency issued interim rules over 1,000 times 20 years of PTOs not observed and C for PTAB and excessive PTAB power paradoxical reasons congressional encouragement judicial destroying legitimacy Cooper sustained congressman and delegate to an administrative tribunal that determinability of private GD power no longer around the court CSA fees C rejected challenge to interparties reviews PT cannot be an adjudicative tribunal before its court approved such a deviation from messing no court ever agreed delegated authority over property non article 3 dismay absent clarification that the congressional encouragement judicial branch and legitimacy caps confidence escalation extinction security 18 international and religious participation government impact management impact agreement stability in the world and independent judiciary reserve now no rule of law the court there and the executive plan 1 from voters on the vendor 2 cancel the second page reliance interest that was above also second advantage returns of his strong executives bad 2 3 is also in hearing cancel cases is unconstitutional agency can constantly mandate rule on court case that was above and 4 the care plan and 5 Charlotte can't solve garden 4 the starting on that corporate communities reach a net zero regulation environment many investors stakeholders corporate communities only comes statements everyone is going to change the company's obligations and since from the acting outline over the issue can be touchy competitive purpose specification normal use not effect not a mandate intertest to be a use code and no spill no guarantee that exact agents like use PTO can manage can solve properly also cross apply no spillover to the rest of the account plans the court flag 1 no link notice economies prosecutors to use PTO now the court to turn a road use PTO will make its own arbitrary rules levels at 22 academic boards such as UP crafted to write new subject matter eligibility rules that needs to the line of unauthorized agent rule making in this meeting to common known standard but the rules were different attack and no interlink the court historically fails just look at the news and the absolutes did that revitalizes corporate governance the code counterplan 1 counterplan 0 interlink provision just come on congressional law not judicial and certainly not Supreme Court cases 2 say no negligence in West Carolina 20 statutory notes less than idealized or purpose judgment interpreted significant statutory notes question 100 notes are valid law code structure has to establish valid laws making them difficult to have no idea there's statutory notes and shadows law of it makes it difficult to find notes or understand importance and cross apply the certainty stuff and cross apply the fiat key stuff and perm to the appling over other issues capital protection competitive cross apply standards and A exempt to be US code and perm to both perm to counterplan international polarization thumbs and can spill over.
Okay, we're gonna take prep before cross. Okay, 10. Start.
Okay.
Okay, got it. Okay. Stop prep. It's 9:11.
I'm good for cross.
Okay.
Why is fiat key?
So the OSG issued or urged the Supreme Court to deny writ in the case, and unless you fiat it, the writ is going to be denied.
Okay, so it's about, so fiat is key to get the court to accept the case.
Yes.
Okay, certainty, why is it key?
I mean, we have an entire advantage about reliance interest.
Okay, can you explain?
Okay, if there's not any certainty, then investors are gonna pull out of the economy. That is obviously bad for recession reasons.
I'm confused at how that would implicate certainty, because it seems like investors would only care about the endpoint outcome. So if relevant authorities started doing what the investors wanted, why would it matter what process it uses?
What do you mean?
If the counterplan solves the case, gets to the same endpoint, why would investors care how it's done?
Well, obviously, they would care how it's done. The entire process that you take needs to follow certain procedures. The Vertinsky card and the Kawoi card says that whenever we try to do weird stuff, have Congress the federal government curb the judiciary for random reasons,
Sorry,
all of that.
Which card is this?
What?
Which
the
card?
Vertinsky and the Kawoi card.
Is that in the one I see?
Yeah.
Okay. The Rutinsky card, what's the warrant for that?
Because, okay, so investors are inherently risk averse, right? The card says, very specifically, it says, quote, scholars extol the importance of stability, predictability, and reliability. Mechanisms that generate clear,
Okay.
stable, legal
Yeah,
norms.
no, that's cool, but the tag says any variation from common judicial processes collapses investor certainty and generates feedback loops. I'm confused why if we just obviate judicial processes entirely, this card wouldn't just become irrelevant.
What do you mean you obviate judicial processes entirely?
If some counterplan does not go through the judiciary and instead solves a case through another mechanism, why does this certainty deficit about court procedure matter?
Because the entire case is grounded in the courts. If you're talking about the executive counterplan, for example, this card is not specific to the courts, but rather legal processes. Obviously, the executive, still links to the Vertinsky card.
No, it says judicial decision making have the lowest variance.
What? Yeah, that says that using the judiciary for a court case, which is occurring in the judiciary, is good.
Okay, this card is also about patents, ZAF patents.
Yes.
Participate. I'm just confused. It doesn't seem to say anything about fair. It just says perceived fairness have a significant impact on innovation. How would investors perceive what's fair or not?
Okay, this line is very good. Okay, where a change in patent law is uncertain and the duration of the uncertainty is prolonged, actors will delay investment and licensing decisions will have difficulty in closing transactions.
Okay.
Okay, starting prep 9/11 starting. Or wait, can you set it?
Yeah. 9. Okay, start.
Starting now.
Yeah, the pro text was sent out.
Okay, cool.
Okay, stop prep. Or, hold on, it's not stopping.
Just go like this. 149.
I'm sending out a doc. It's the K, then the courts counterplan, then T courts, or T Congress. Oh, wait, I forgot to send out some other cards, sorry. Okay, now it should be sent. Sorry. Does everyone have the doc? The most
Yeah, I'm
recent
good.
one?
Oh, let me double check.
Yeah, there should be two.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. And for the K, it's just starting on framework.
Okay.
Okay. Vote neg if we disprove the act based on its justifications. They can win if they prove their justifications are good and outweigh the links. Prefer it. 1. Masculinism. Their interp treats gender as extrinsic to discussions of IR when patriarchy is indistinguishable from the practice of international politics. Be willing to include gender in your decision calculus because it's fundamentally tied to every impact in the 1AC. That's Cheyenne Kimskova. 19. Traditional IR theory defines foreign policy through a neoliberalist method dominated by masculine principles. Gender is equal to when only masculine person gender is integral. Not accidental feature of the world. The feminist method is not about revealing how the concept of gender is incorporated into foreign policy from the tree taker and the deconstruct foreign policy and I are using gender analysis revealed made by security made by informed men on the basis of their experience. The hegemonic masculinity is culturally idealized. 2. Political dialogue. It's necessary to create feminist foreign policy, specifically in the context of IR. That's Sharon Kimskova 19. Political dialogue should be the basis of all aspects of foreign policy. Practitioners in the field of IR emphasize militarized solutions. Feminist scholars criticize this approach and highlight the need for a shift toward inclusive dialogue to prevent violence and identify root causes instead of superficially fighting the symptoms. 3. Justifications matter. The plan doesn't get passed after the round, but we'll all become solution makers of some form in the future. The concepts we consider and debate determine the effectiveness of those solutions by exposing us to new ideas. Try and Kimskova 19. Traditional approaches ignore or overlook the greater gender dimension of security. Feminist studies emphasize the importance of questioning militarized security, that is not able to protect women, children, civilians, and migrants, and need to always reflect on current approaches and avoid fixed security concept the way problems are framed inherently and into the way solutions are found, defining security not through absence of violence, where leaders can commit to peace. Framework frames the link debate. The perm cannot shield because we've impact turned their justifications. Fairness is wrong. 1. No link. Justifications are reasons they chose to prove the app was a good idea. If they wouldn't have defended a card or advantage in 1AC cross, it can't be a link under our model, which means no infinite reps. 2. No impact. Flipping a coin would be fair but not beneficial. 3. This round is not key. Fairness can be an intrinsic good, but that's necessary. That doesn't mean it's necessary to uphold it against feminist scholarship. Clash is wrong. 1 turn. If refusing to challenge justifications is worse, especially on a topic where the only other net ground is the process counterplan. Arbitrarily limiting out certain perspectives is less informative. That 2, it's not unique. New apps, deleting analytics, etc. all prove that this isn't single-handedly destroying Clash. 3, the K is predictable. They chose their justifications when constructing the app, which means they should have been prepared to clash over them. The next argument was floating pics and the fiat stuff. No link, we're not a floating pic. I'll explain the alt stuff here, and everything else can be filtered through framework. Vote neg for feminist foreign policy. In this round, that means endorsing our model of debate and rejecting the app for masculinized rhetoric. That makes it possible to question the rules and norms that uphold patriarchal IR and problematize dominant security narratives. That offense was on framework. To the degree that they win fiat is real or valuable, we get to fiat a reciprocally utopian alternative. That means imagining a world where policymaking prioritizes the security and well-being of citizens over the legitimacy of the nation state, which results in durable peace, disarmament, and de-escalation. That's all in Shire and Komskova. The next argument was perm to both. It fails. They dropped the link and said nothing besides the words perm to both, which means the link is a massive dissed. I'll do that work here. The link is security. The 1AC relies on prioritizing the American nation state in its scenario planning, trying to masculinize itself in the face of global threats. Their explanations for why the plan is a good idea, as per the 1AC, requires a narrow and patriarchal understanding of what is considered in political calculations in the first place, disregarding the needs of individuals to retain masculinity and global dominance. There are 2 impacts. 1, exploitation. Prioritizing the legitimacy of the nation state requires putting the well-being of citizens on the back burner, especially those labeled feminine. They're forced to mine minerals and produce weapons to support the military-industrial complex, since masculinity on a world stage is the ultimate goal. 2, self-fulfilling prophecy. Patriarchal IR makes having enemies a natural situation and assumes conflict is a valid way out, which creates an endless cycle of securitization that causes both countless deaths through war and makes the app's impacts inevitable. That's Shire and Komskova. They do this in several places. The development, water scarcity, and infrastructure scenarios from all of those issues as war and conflict-based concerns, rather than things that genuinely affect people's quality of life. That's proof that they understand these problems as things that threaten the U.S.'s masculinity or control over the security over the international sphere. So patriarchal rule remains stable and sustainable, which requires only considering large-scale global threats and disavowing the things that actually affect individuals and feminized bodies. The recession impact also assumes conflict is the natural and expected path after an economic downturn, despite it being empirically denied. COVID-08 and every other instance of decline proves conflict is the least likely option, but patriarchal IR assumes it's the only outcome, which proves the self-fulfilling prophecy warrant about encouraging and expecting conflict. I'm preempting the 1AR argument that this is omission. It's not. 1NC Shire is incredibly clear that these policy-making priorities are what sustain patriarchy, which means the link is not you didn't say individuals, but rather an explanation of the active omission of feminist perspectives and concerns under the app's patriarchal analysis. Also be lenient because the app was new, and the 2AC on this was absolutely atrocious, so they should get very little new arguments in the 1AR. The next argument was IR isn't Eurocentric. This is 0. They've not written an actual card. They've just said IR isn't Eurocentric with no explanation besides empirics and no application to our theory, so you shouldn't let them re-explain this in the context of what we said. The next argument was no neg fiat. This is obviously ridiculous. It's good. It's key to neg flex and strategy on an app-biased topic with no disads, especially versus new apps. The things they listed, like consult, counterplans, and world peace, are beaten by competition and theory because judges don't like them. I forgot to answer extinction at ways. I'm gonna do that here. 1, we access extinction, which is on the turns case stuff and self-fulfilling prophecy. 2, reject it. Utilitarian calculus justifies interventions, wars, and conflict as rational choices that countries can make for a distant greater good that has the immediate effect of putting citizens in harm's way and abetting the violence that results from war, which is far more proximate and likely than any justification for conflict could offer. That's Shire and Komskova, the courts campaign. Kondo and Judge Kick are good. We get what we did. 1, flex. Kondo is key to allow for the testing the app from multiple angles. Apps have a natural incentive to sandbag their best offense until the 2EC, exacerbated by lack of any offense across 3 huge topic areas, which requires strategies based on 2EC undercoverage, especially since they broke new, which is a voting issue for fairness and clash. It kills pre-round prep and strategy, causing worse debates. Disclosure 30 minutes before the round solves. 2 is logic. A reason the counterplan is bad isn't a reason the plan is good. Punishment should fit the crime. Make the counterplan dispo. If we lose theory, skew is inevitable. T, disad, speed, highlighting and speed and highlighting all prove. Diminishing marginal utility checks the abuse, adding more advocacies, peaks in value until it becomes a strategic liability. Dispo fails. 1, R offense. It's on Kondo. The neg can't read mutually exclusive counterplans, and the app dictates the 2 and R. 2, their offense process counterplans and planks force perms. If the straight turn's the best answer, the 2EC will always read it, and Dispo's vague and has 0 textual basis. The T. I IPR protection requires Congress and excludes court action. That's Christopoulos. Prefer it. 1. Limits their interpretation as new advantages based on altering judicial precedent or barely tweaking existing agency regulations. Congressional action limits the topic to new statutes which have a larger effect on IP protection. 2. Ground. They get rid of the most common agent counterplans. The politics is set and topic is set based on large departures from the SQO, which non-Congress acts can all circumvent. A or neg. They have infinite prep and control the focus of the debate. They don't meet. Cross-ex said courts. Their evidence is wrong. Enforcement and protection might be intertwined, but they are not the same. I.e., doing enforcement is not the same as doing IP protection because Christopoulos says there's a distinct. But if you protect IP, then enforcement would come after the fact, which is what their evidence is describing. The prefer interpretation that was on the overview is also more predictable. Our evidence has a clear intent to define and distinguishes legislative protection and judicial enforcement, and our evidence from a panel of lecturers and professors who are experts in IP. This is also a capital T truth about how authority for IPR is allocated. That should come first in your decision because we're closest to what the topic should actually be. They say predictability, that was done above, and limits turn it because there's no point anticipating the topic or having a stasis point if every app is vague and nothing links. Over limiting is wrong. They only think that small topics over limit because of structural app bias in previous resolutions, and our interrupt solves because studios will innovate creative advantages and develop unique takes on core topic themes. Functional limits are wrong because of the stuff I did on the overview about non-Congress acts being able to circumvent that then, and reasonability, their interpret's unreasonable. I'm good for cross.
Alright, everyone good? Okay. Let's start off with the K. So, like, what type of political, like, dialogue are you fostering?
Political dialogue. The Shire card is about considering like alternative political perspectives. That we would argue that's not possible under a plan, like a solely plan focused model, because that requires focusing on governmental action and the policies that or the justifications that the 1AC has forwarded. We think that our interpretation allows a more nuanced and approach to those issues by allowing us to question the justifications and underlying things that are supporting the 1AC instead of purely like what has been presented.
I mean, like, you've read like a lot of cards that says that like feminism can like influence foreign policy or whatever. Like, why does plan focus like suddenly mean that you can't like access?
I think I already answered that question.
No. Like, all you said was that plan focus means that you have to talk about the government. Like, obviously the government is involved.
Yeah, and the Shire and Komskova evidence is about the underlying security narratives that characterize a lot of policy, foreign policy, domestic policy, any policy that relates to international issues.
So
we think that our interpretation, the
1AC
has a narrow view of it. We don't think that we would be able to read this K, at least not the way that we've deployed it in this debate, if the model was plan focused, because then we're not able to critique the justifications for the 1AC. We can't there's not really a dissent to justifications. We think that questioning the underlying narrative behind No. The argument is that we need to question the justifications that go into creating policy, which is what almost all of our offense, as per the Shire and Komskova card, was about. That's how we unlock like a more feminist future.
If you're so right that the justifications of the app are bad, why can't you say like that will result in the app like having bad consequences?
What? No, wait, I'm confused. What is the question?
Like, you're saying that the justifications of the app are bad, right?
Yeah, the justifications.
Like, why does that mean that you can't say
because
that
it's a question of like critiquing the security narrative. It's not necessarily that like there is a linear thing that happens because of the plan. The framework argument is just that like we should be able to critique the way that you presented the plan and the way that you've justified it.
Okay, I want to talk about T. So you said like enforcement must like come like after protection. Like, why does our card like imply that?
Because, well, no. Your card says like protection and enforcement are like connected, which we agree with. But the argument is that protecting IP then leads to enforcement. Like if you protect something and that goes into law or some statute or whatever.
Says. Like our card says that IPR enforcement is like a subset of IPR protection.
Yeah, a subset. That means it comes after. Like maybe it doesn't mean it comes after, but the Christopoulos evidence is incredibly clear that IPR protection is one thing. IPR enforcement is like the way that IPR protection happens, if that makes sense. It's like after the actual policy passes.
Your card just says that IPR enforcement is distinct from IPR protection.
Yeah, because they're two separate things that kind of like they are both involved in IP protection, I guess. But
Texas is a subset of the United States.
I genuinely do not hear a question. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, I sent it.
Okay, that was 7 seconds. So 1
42.
Okay. Is everyone good for an order?
Yeah.
Tort clog disadd. The executive counter plan. The court's counter plan. And then the OLRC counter plan.
The counterplan orders of executive court's code.
Yes. Okay, cool. Okay. Everyone good? Good.
Tort disadd, kick it, concede, no internal link enforcement fails, they have no offense here. Executive counterplan, kick it, theories of reason, direct argument, not the team, and answered by Kondo, kick it on the perm. The court's counterplan, concede the perm, test of competition, theories of reason, direct argument, not the team. The OLRC counterplan, it solves, instead of ruling for the AF, the Office of Law Revision Council rewrites U.S. Code to codify the plan. In the federal law through summarization, the effect and production are indistinguishable. Every government body and private actor interprets the law exclusively through the code trigger identical compliance, even though the law itself set down to the statutes at large that cross it spills over post-CP. Code will be used as a pressure release valve for polarization, galvanizing bipart. Case mistakes to sort to happen, not the counterplan presumption. Let's put 24. OLRC text was making change to codify Brenda, make a mistake, each one. That totally tries to major implication in level codification will unintentionally alter the meaning of a given law. 2AC1 courts are key. They just interpret what statutes say, changing the input to that process, ensure they'll adjust their interpretation in a way that's consistent with the plan. This cross that clarifies the law better and faster. Ginter and Humber. 87. The court is not a committee for revision of federal statutes. Legislative technique could advance the coherence of law more effectively. Conservative judicial research is fair judges active work in the way. Congressional law is meaningless. The code modifies how agencies are required to work in the first place. Framing issue no solvency cross-tap sandbags is blocking the 2R. 2AC2 strike down is wrong. Courts of Congress revision as authoritative. Never just says that people question whether code is law, not that they ignore it. Everyone acquiesces to B20 law undergoes changes between enactment and the code. OLRC significant power over how courts and public see law. Interpreters treat the code as if it were Congress lawyers and largely OLRC's decisions law. This is incorrect because OLRC is to change Congress, improve law, making it less confusing, time consuming through that edge high ambiguity, imposing appearance of Congress's or courts quickly follow on based on the signal of legislative intent solves the Allegro. 3 second look over the gap filler. U.S. code authorizes OLRC to remove imperfection and substance form review already enacted and clarify the meaning reducing circular complex over federal law. 2C3 certainty misses the boat. The deficit is about certainty of outcome, not process for insolvency through deviation from the SCRO, not the plan sufficient zeros. It's about deviation from normal court processes and the one you see tag. Hold them to it. The counterplan obviates that. The counterplan is the same rule pronounced by the same actor based on the same principle of legal authority. The outward appearance is identical. That's cross-apply. Say yes. Proves investors, lawyers, and others perceive the CP as normal. And no impact as a drop case defense. Developments, a buzzword that means nothing. Recessions are the sole driver of war because our as hotspots alone escalate without economic concerns. Lawyers totally overlook underlying law stack. 19 legal country codes is corporate law legislation and correct prevention. The code is the same in the law. Blue book requires citation only code carries clear message about legal community because no sorts of legislation set decision advice in which provisions are overlooked is vast. 2AC4 fiat key was destroyed cross is about fiat being key in a court ruling, but the counterplan modifies underlying code which solves without needing the courts, but no impact. Infrastructure resilience is fake because of coronal injections and cyber attack. AF can't solve global water scarcity because the infrastructure scenario is specific to the US. 3AC5, the other issues perm is functionally intrinsic. That's a VI. CP as a OLRC insert the plan. The perm adds new functions. Functional competition alone against new AFs is best. Author answers any theory. A ground remains eliminates all generics and no possible word on this topic that kills fairness. It encourages filling the plan with random words and scramble perm to be every CP. New AFs necessitates process that killed net ground DAs, which is a voting issue disclosing 30 minutes before the round solves. B arbitrariness. USFG should culture debate over government action deviating from the resolution justifies arbitrary limiting out every neg petition and makes ban the plan not compete. C no offense. Functional only limits out word picks and redefining checks abuse. They speak last and have infinite prep defined deficits with AF bias literature. Error neg any limit for intrinsicness is arbitrary and snowballs. The perm also fails. It's similar enough that it would be perceived to do both. All the perms modify 35 US code, so it would just have the exact same outward appearance. 2C6 do both links are severed. It amends the law itself, which requires a congressional enactment of judicial decision beyond the OLRC, triggers controversy and litigation because its separate determination must be reached. That's cross. No source requires the friction, not have any basis in enacted law or court decisions. That's a cross evidence. It's also logical. Perm C deficits because there's only risk including the plan links more than on presumption. 2AC7 the CP sever the voting issue for collection of ground. IP rights are only given by logically construed definitions, narrowly partisan. 5 laws should be narrowly construed and intellectual property concealed. The problem only rights exception those given by law courts construed rights strictly. Strengthen requires real effects having directed from the plan's mandate. Modality whether decisions strengthen IPR based on net effect. Resolve the system of enact and means by law. Word phrases 64 resolves enact and bind as to establish by law. The CP is neither binding legal force nor direct effect in IP law. Code is merely a summary of law. Wizard 9 when the law is enacted is public law intention the law for research. Law codified in the US code. The code provides freedom of evidence of laws and contrast statute law legal ever of laws. The differences if you go to cite the code the adversary may show code is not accurate. Prefer non-enforcement destroys ground by spiking DA links and soft law explodes limits into infinite procedural tweaks or guidance that bypasses all functional limits. Competition should be based on mandate. Screening effect kills ground. ground because any action could make the plan more likely. No offense. You only need one reason. The USFG or fielding the plan is key to the sole consistent element of debate topics for decades. Now, polarization outweighs magnitude, and it precludes domestic and international cooperation necessary for resilience in the face of existential pandemics, nuclear war, and climate change. That's Brundtland dropped. 2AC8, the thumpers are just one-liners, so reject them because there's no warrants. Trump doesn't thump. The impact is polarization, not fascism. Even if he's a polarizing figure, the CP allows Congress to bridge divides, which solves international issues. Don't thump. Brundtland says the U.S. specifically is key as a world leader, and or when he agrees, issues in the U.S. spill out globally. 2AC9, the CP spills over, assess, build on itself. They dropped the consequence sense of perception that lawmakers can avoid partisan blowback by slowing off questions of the OLRC. That's cross. Over time by increasing the process, building time for genuine bipartisan policy making. But no spillover was unwarranted. It was just 2 words. So hold the line. A new one-year extrapolation. Empowering the OLRC boosts institutional capacity, offsetting the externality of polarization. Bowman 23. In response to polarization, nonpartisan threat extra to make lawmaking possible or at least to be allowed to Congress. Declining some issues. Internal has to be offset by products of leadership. No one stay with the speed effectiveness of OLRC for support. Call for increased capacity by strengthening congressional bureaucracy. Nothing further to expand this capacity, institutional capacity, focusing on bureaucracies. There's 2 literal relationship between Congress and the admin state.
was 535 used?
206.
Yeah.
Left.
The order will be case, and I'll answer New York staff first, then decay, then topicality, and then the process counterpart.
Any particular order for case?
I'll just be like extending like an add-on.
Okay.
Everyone good?
Are there cards?
Just whatever's in the doc.
Okay, let me open it. I have the doc, and I think Evan does too.
Yep. I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Drop the P-tab add-on. A credible API prevents the P-tab from accumulating extensive power, stopping the destructive judicial legitimacy, which is conflict escalation globally. That's the Gerson evidence. New York's bad to show the outdated internet access is now widespread, allowing instant reach and fact-checking makes abuse impossible. New York's are good. They spur research, creativity, and topic about reach, forcing closure, moves to competitive incentive, research education outweighs is the only journal impacted debate. The framework, extend framework, but the field not only see because competitive opportunity cause that includes solvency, uniqueness, and only cause links to the plan. The impact of fairness, standard, its opportunity moves all of the 1AC, but just find trap links off a single word hidden evidence that's a win condition for the negative far too low. Fairness is a part question. All their fairness officers presupposes their head and thesis of the K, which can only be viewed through the technical weakness of the arguments fairly. Also, fairness solves burnout, which causes stress and outweighs all of their offense. They say no link. There's no lower bound for it. A justification constitutes, and their interpretation is arbitrary because there's no reason justifications exclude things like every house. Regardless, justifications alone let the neck fiat in tons of unpredictable offense and justifies philosophical competition with permutations impossible. They say no impact. There is those above. They say this route is not key. It is. It's about overall models, and their model is worse. No clash turn. Tons of functional limits. Solve their offense, which will be on the topicality flow. And go to their offense. Group all of it. No subjectivity shift. A. All causes like family, friends, and personal upbringing have greater impact. B. One round of reshape from the worldview. C. Twitch try to beat these debaters. Go with arguments to make IE spark and warming good. This means about an only remedy and fairness in this round. They say bad skillism and political dialogue. Group them. Their evidence is not assumed debate, which is unique because of a switch set argumentation, and no cards say it spills out. They say justifications matter. We agree that the plan doesn't get passed, but that's a reason to prioritize in-round fairness as a model that teaches skills through a debatable topic. Now, extension extinction outweighs useful versus the one arbitrary impact because either improv famous satellites and large population every life with balance. The only irreversible impact. It turns out always because we cannot do the alt if everyone's dead. Nuclear war would also be slow, grotesque, and cause undeveloped stopping against martyrs populations, which worsens every material impact. They say it justifies war. No, because the cost of war outweighs the benefits of winning, and this was also an uncarded distortion. The link debate. The links go away if we win framework and distinction outweighs, but I'll answer the tricks. No self-fulfilling prophecy. Their evidence is not specific to our impacts or internal links on the P-tab add-on. Yes, decline impact is not done because now it's a rank which was litigated in 1 cross-examination. T courts. Reasonability was basically dropped. Even if their interpretation is slightly more limited, they've dropped that it doesn't matter because the differential between our interpretation is small, otherwise substance crowd out. In other words, good is good enough. Extend the counter to protection and strengthening IPR includes court-mandated enforcement. That's Mandel and Ossegard. Extend predictability, it's a question. 1. Only we would find the word strengthen to be the court that modifies the word protection, which is what they defined. If our solution was use of G should interpret laws, defining laws to be Congress is obviously illogical since the prior verb interpret determines the intended function to be the courts. 2. No negative definition excludes the possibility that judicial enforcement is a subset of congressional protection, the two being distinct legal terms as relevant in Texas because a distinct legal entity from the U.S. but is still a part of the country. Statutes that modify law in one affects the other. They say they cards as the intended defined, so do we, but we have external reasons why for their interpretation interpret is unpredictable, which is above. Here's more evidence. Predicted by priorities of decision force includes surprise. Lead 23. Protection of IP clearly defined count. Infringement formally punishment improved digital supervision of leaders of IP protected. Resolved isn't a part of the topic, just means this policy debate. Harsher. 1. There is controversial law view and absent policy debate. The very term affirms a negative support by view. And if they classify definitions from prudently cattle plan on the process thing, we get new responses as to who we are because it's unjustified and it's late breaking. Predictability outweighs and internal terms of readability limitedly matter insofar as it's predictable. Otherwise, leaders self to are prepared because they could not predict the F. Predictable status fosters in-depth research argumentation, which are the only exportable skills the community can adapt under limited definitions. If it's not predictable, extend to C4. Functional limits solve all their offense. They only had 5 seconds here, so it was basically dropped. Ban IP's OP against early F because perms lose to the carve-out deficit. The cap links to every F and court clock, court politics, and stare decisis all links to court affirmative, so it does not matter if they lose the politics instead. And functional limits foster adaptability for court topic controversial and ego distant last year debates more steel since the extra limitation foster repetitive ground. And there's no ground loss. Court topics are more ground since politics side is dead. Anyways, that was all above. Process counterpoint. I'll answer the case defense embedded into 1 and R. Yes, development impact. Development resistance are the largest internal link. Yes, decline impact that was done above. And yes, water war. Scarcity drives conflicts in other countries. The overview, they definitely do not turn case durable fiat follows, and their evidence is definitely not about our affirmative or mechanism. Extend the certainty deficit. The counterplan collapse is certainty crucial for investment. 2 internal links. 1, legal processes. The counterplan decimates legal processes and the way the court operates by having the OLRC intervene in the middle of a court case out of nowhere. Any variation from set of predictable norms destroy investor signaling, the market serving, and other sensitive markets. But 2 is consult. The counterplan is mere involvement of outside actors in deciding the issue of APA stuff, cause investors to all freak out and destroy perceived fairness, crucial for investment decisions. That's all the Brzezinski evidence. They say they clarify faster. Their evidence is not about the effect revisions have on courts, just the act of inserting statutes in the first place. Their say yes cards are not about intellectual property law that matters because of investor certainty making it distinct. And the counterplan is not the same rule and the same actor. All the counterplan index does is have the OLRC modify a statute. Our entire F until the USPTO is ignoring statutes now, which has to render statutes irrelevant. There's no way to solve. Extend the other issues for improvement plan accountable for other issues of protection because it includes all the plaintiffs' numbers of counterplan and dysfunctional legitimate because other issues is normal means unabandoned. They'll drop, no new responses. Permutations are yes, no question, either counterplan credit or not. But even if you think it's intrinsic, counterplan will be textually and functionally competitive, so perm texture functional legitimate. The stats. 1 is artificial and benefits the counterplan is field and distats when the zones made up shooting cuts to the average use block recycling punches result and should involve economic to reach or the educational value of debate. They say that ground functional limits solve which was on topicality. They say logic and reason why technical competition sucks is not a rebuttal. It's a counterplan can be able to text and function. Provability class does not apply because the perm is specific in section 5.3 except certain rules from notice comment. That's ACUS no date and it is a distinct mandate.
Counterplay can spill over one full IP policy.
Counterplay can spill over one full IP policy.
Okay. How much? Oh, 142.
Yep.
Sorry.
There we go.
Okay, starting now. It's just the cat. 2-error cannot recover from a 2EC that clearly had no idea what the K actually was. They conceded the link in most of our offense on framework, which means a tiny risk of turns case is in that ballot. They've dropped the recessions link, which was flagged for like 20 seconds of the 2NC, so they definitely did not get new responses to it. They have framed the economic decline as something that inevitably leads to conflict, which, despite it being empirically denied due to COVID in 2008 and all past economic downturns that have not led to the scale and scope of conflict that the 1AC has described, that proves they're invested in a patriarchal worldview that assumes conflict is the only rational or inevitable option, which makes it structurally inevitable by assuming that it's the only logical way out, which makes states prime for war and leads it to an endless cycle of securitization that recreates the war and conflict impacts that go throughout the entire 1AC. This link is about recessions, but it also applies to all the other 1AC scenarios about development, PTAB, judicial legitimacy, etc. Because all of their impacts are about war and the conflict that results from their scenarios. The way that those risks are framed and securitized means that those things are structurally inevitable in the long term, which means that an app ballot, which means even if you determine that the getaway case or their justifications is pointless because there's no way they can meaningfully or durably solve for them. Framework: vote negative if we disprove the app based on its justifications. That means winning the link, which we have, and our impact framing is an auto neg ballot because it proves that the app's justifications are net violent and should be rejected. The third 2NC Shire Accord was basically dropped. It says that the way problems are framed inherently influences the way solutions are found, which means that not concerning feminist perspectives or the underlying justifications that go into the security narratives and the way that we research and craft 1ECs means that these things are overlooked and we won't become effective solution makers. Not all of us are going to become lawyers or policymakers in the future, but we will all have to make tough decisions about how we prioritize things and why we do so, which means that considering as many perspectives as possible, including feminist perspectives that question the underlying things that we prioritize in policymaking and in our interactions with other people, means that allows us to create more ethical solutions by considering more than just traditional narratives and examining underlying concepts that aren't traditionally found. Their only response to this was that we can still include it. This is wrong. We can't access the same level of dialogue because planned focus means we can't critique the underlying justifications through traditional dissent or counterplan. This case is being deployed as a critique of the way they framed these risks, which has an impact on how we approach things in the real world, which is more proximate. I'm also conceding from their answer to New F's bad that education is the only thing we get from debate. That means that fairness is absolutely zero because they haven't explained an educational impact to it. You can look at the speech doc if you don't know if they said that, but they definitely did. That's a line I'm explicitly conceding. All the stuff about no subjectivity shift is irrelevant. It's not about them changing their minds based on this one round. It's about exposure to new perspectives and the way we think and the way we're able to think about these things. It's not just security risks or the way that the world traditionally frames them in the global sphere, but rather bringing off this critique allows us to question those perspectives. Even if it doesn't actually change their minds, it still questions the research practices and the scope of what we consider in debate. But even if you don't buy that, or you think the subjectivity defense still applies, you can still vote neg because their justifications are fundamentally unethical, which is also described in the Shire Accord because it overlooks the way that migrants, feminized bodies, etc. are overlooked by traditional foreign policy, which is another unethical thing that should definitely be. That warrants an independent neg ballot. The fairness stuff was already dealt with the education stuff. They have not explained it outside of fairness being an intrinsic good, so they don't get to bring up a new fairness towards education argument in the 2-error because I don't get to respond to it. All the stuff their offense is also wrong. All the infinite rep stuff is wrong because I gave a clear bright line in the 2NC that if they wouldn't have defended a card or a justification for the 1AC in 1AC cross-sex, it definitely wouldn't have been able to be critiqued under our model. I know this isn't a perfect bright line, but it certainly means that we can't critique one independent word that they didn't highlight or that doesn't support the fundamental justifications for the app. The recessions link definitely still applies because it's an underlying theory. It's an underlying support for the entire for most of the first advantage, which means it should definitely be critiqued. The stuff about this round also definitely isn't key. They haven't explained why this round is unique. Why you need to even if fairness is intrinsic good, you don't need to uphold it uniquely in this round against feminist scholarship, especially because their impact is far is far bigger. Just because it's an impact does not mean it has to be unequivocally considered over anything else. The util stuff is irrelevant because of the self-fulfilling prophecy stuff, which is a turns case warrant. If you determine that they win framework and get to weigh their justifications for this, it can't outweigh because they make war structurally inevitable, which means they can't weigh util as a justification against us since we both access it. The no self-fulfilling prophecy stuff was done above. It is specific to the app because we explained it in the context of recessions and economic decline, which is empirically overhyped. Will you want a card doc?
Sure. I mean, I can just pull it from the 2NC doc.
It probably won't be that.
Yeah, no, you don't have to separate them. I forgot that they're all in the same doc.
Alright, it's done.
The order's like the add-on end of the game.
The negative cannot win this debate when they have dropped crucial pieces of offense on the framework debate. Framework is the only thing that matters. I'll extend the add-on, doubling down on APA requirements, constrains the courts, which prevents it from, which collapses judicial legitimacy, which prevents the court from solving a litany of existential threats such as warming, etc., which are all external to war, which means none of the church case warrants apply. Also, the conceal for warrants of the Chester case is causing uncertainty now, which means now specifically is key to resolve all impacts. Now the K proper group all the presumption warrants at the top framework with the links, and the links are inevitable. There's only a risk of off at the threshold for presumption, i.e. any self-fulfilling prophecy stuff, zero policy figure stuff that may have hidden is high because the case was dropped regardless. The 200 overview is also wrong. The one here has a specific answer to the econ decline link. The one here explicitly flagged that economic development now is necessarily key was dropped. Also, durable fiascos and the recession now extended framework with the one you see versus competitive opportunity cost not shift to a middle ground interpretation because it's not justified. At least must be caused like unique and the all must be material and solving when your framework is sufficient. Zero links and automatically vote affirmative because they don't meet our interpretation. Now the intellectual fairness is massive. The entirety of the one you see was constructed around the plan being able to weigh the case. So one lowers the negative with condition to the floor and function devolves into you like you lose because the applicant access a greater source of office. Fairness is the impact. There's two warrants. One, it's a prerequisite to accessing any of debate's benefits. The recent team spent hours cutting cards, researching, prepping, etc. is because they believe doing those things will help them win rounds. So both teams have an equal chance of getting the ballot. An unfair game eviscerates debate's incentive structure. If the entirety of the one you see gets mooted the moment the negative wins a framework argument. There's zero incentive to do any of the aforementioned research and prep. Both sides obviously agree that debate is good by their participation in the round, i.e. the fairness paradox, which was also dropped to preserve structure of the activity, should be your foremost priority. B subpoint. They've also dropped the stress argument that was in the 1AR. They've conceded that the model foments tension and anxiety by forcing debaters to constantly predict the unpredictable. If you're tech over truth, you should pull the trigger on this alone. A 1% risk of stress is sufficient to turn and outweigh all of their offense. Now, I'll answer their responses to fairness. They say infinite threats is wrong because of bright line 3 responses. 1, their bright line is arbitrary, which in itself is bad. It justifies the negative teams ending up with the king coming in with a new term that's technically debatable each round, but shifting the goalpost is bad. 2, what happens if the case extending the 1AR where the negative introduces all the links? At that point in the debate, it's impossible for the affirmative to stand up in cross-links and say we don't want to defend it. But 3, if they're right, the app doesn't need to defend anything they don't want to. Their model obviously doesn't solve these app. Will just say they're not willing to defend a card. I know this sounds new, but that's because their explanation of the inter was new and the 2 in R and the 2 in C was difficult to hear today. They say even if fairness is good, upholding it in this round doesn't matter. All of our offense is the reason why it matters. It's arbitrary throw away fairness just because you're right about your theory and power, and that just lets the negative win each time. But if they win fairness, doesn't matter. Then vote neg. Even if they win the line by line, they have an isolated. Yeah, vote a half. They have an isolated reasons why their literature is more valuable than any other form of literature either. Now, I'll answer the education thing on the new app's bad. Obviously, you're incorrect. The only thing, they're misconstruing our argument. We made clear that the only education we get from debate comes from skill development, i.e. learning how to sit through Google's on or speaking quickly or watching videos on 2 types of speed, which can only occur through a model debate. The spirit and neg doesn't have to win round and round. We were deliberately ambiguous on new app's bad, so don't pull the trigger on this. Now, I'll answer all of their offense. There's two arguments I'm going for. One is that they have dropped the 1AR response that competitive their evidence does not assume for the competitive incentive structures of debate, which means that it's obviously not going to spill over. This was explicitly in the 1AR and it's conceived. But second is that subject formation stuff does apply. The 2R just said that they foster new perspectives or force people to think about things. Obviously, that's literally what subjectivity shift defense is. Defense is answering. Now, no subjectivity shift offense. Defense to all of their impacts. The negative win condition is so much harder in our application when the debaters will not just read different arguments, will generally believe the truth of the case. A few more disprove it. 1, this is one round of hundreds of application debates with decisions to go either way. Teams will still agree framework and exceed their ways against every case, regardless of the outcome of a single round. The nature of switch type debates means they're always ethically detached from our arguments, directly answering their perspective stuff. 2, no deterrent. Debaters chalk up losses, technical sessions, judge who's not their arguments are factually untrue. Teams lose the case, they'll just double down on arguments and reach a cap good, head good, etc., which all turn their office. 3, high school debate is such a small portion of our lives, almost 4 years. Our family, friends, neighbor, religion, everything that comes before and after debate, all have a much larger impact on ideology. I'll answer this idea of that we should be voted down for reasons external to the subjectivity stuff. That's obviously disingenuous and counterproductive to addressing actual psychological harm. Judge intervention solves if there's genuine psychological harm occurring, the net should just ended around reporters to tab. The fact they want to technically adjudicate this harm on the line proves they're just using it as means to end, which turns to their office. Now, the util stuff, winning wins around. They've dropped all the 1-year arguments about how the only non-arbitrary way to win impasse regardless of framework comes first, and any risk of offense external to war, such as the judicial legitimacy stuff about warming, is a reason for why the amount of suffering we cause is sufficient to outweigh under our framework.
Debate.
together some research notes for this week.
Yeah.
Has there been anybody else that's disclosed based round robin
No.
attendance? Okay,
No.
so hopefully we'll get that team list soon, because I wanted
Yeah.
to, I mean, Pace will be there obviously, so.
determine is the external warming impact y'all reference in the 2AR, is that the Sigurdsson evidence, or is there a different piece of evidence that you're referencing?
Yeah.
Okay. It's just the Sigurdsson evidence?
Yeah.
Oh.
And also the one here, I think, like was at the top of the
Okay. Well, who's who?
Summerjay is the 2A.
All right, I'm in. Good debate. Tournament started off when we were in that auditorium saying the NBA tournament produces good debates. This is one of those, so thanks for putting me in the back. I think it's close because there's a couple of questions that are late breaking and that I need to do a little bit of digging to resolve. But that being said, I'm still sort of left with figuring out how to resolve a lot of offense in either direction, and the question of like what a singular ballot in this debate does or doesn't do, I think ends up becoming a pretty big question. That being said, I end up voting affirmative. I think a model in which there's a, I think some of the fairness offense applies because the interpretation moots a negative win condition. And while you are correct that it's probably not the most arbitrary framework interpretation, I think that some of the ability for the negative to shift the goalposts is enough of a risk for a fairness violation. The reason why this matters is I don't think that the 2NR has an answer to like stress and burnout warrants that are in the 1AR. And I think that those complicate the ability to apply the sort of ethical subject formation stuff. And I don't have a way to frame affirmative or negative offense absent subject formation questions. So I think that burnout and stress make it a lot more difficult for us to become subjects that apply like a feminist ethic when we go do things post debates, which is the best explanation of an impact that I have in the 2NC, and then the 2NR seems to be predicated on this. There's this weird moment in the 2NR where you're like, you know, we'll get outside of the subject formation questions. Like the subject formation question doesn't really matter because, and then you don't really, the warrant after that I think is just a question of like the in-round ethical stance, but I don't have a way to, like, I don't have a sufficient reason why an in-round ethical stance does anything if we lose the application of subject formation stuff. I think that you're pretty behind on some of the questions of like, if there's a risk that the negative can always move the goalposts, then the skill application for us to, like, and all of the competitive incentives, like the switch side stuff, and competitive incentives mean that we are less likely to apply whatever ethical framework from the 2AR. This is a debate where I think going for the alternative probably gets you out of, like, the alternative seems to be pretty much conceded, seems like there's a substantial risk of a link, and there seems to be a substantial risk of like a presumption ballot, which is kind of where I sit the longest on considering whether or not, if we have to weigh the F against link, is link alone sufficient to like this SPF stuff. I think some of the risk of like pandemics or external impacts that are not just conflict, because the 2NR explanation is pretty much predicated exclusively on conflict. Then I have to do a little bit of digging because the PTAB like impact evidence that you all go for is just conflict. But the Wong and Sierra evidence does seem to indicate that there are other external existential risks, and or like a very tiny risk of one of those scenarios escalating, absent better 2NR explanation, makes me question voting Nick. I think the Wong and Sierra evidence is like, and there's other portions, I don't know if it's that evidence, so there's like other cards that would make a link push that's like, they've done something unethical in this round, and that's bad. Link stories work, like there's a couple of like pretty easily impoverished people like spread disease sort of style link arguments that you can be making. But it just seems like we're stuck in, we have a bunch of different ways that we could have gone for the critique by the end of the debate, and we have kind of gone for the wrong combination of things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the big picture. What do we want to talk about?
So was there, because I know that the alt and link, like that would have been a better 2NR.
Yeah.
If it had been framework, then, or like if the 2NR was the same as it was,
Yeah.
what's a better way to deal with the subject formation stuff? Just like.
I think you just have to take them up on like, debate is the only thing that, like we're in debate all the time, like it's the thing that we are traveling the country to do every weekend. It's the, and you just like have to have, like they've kind of just vertically spread you on a couple of the subject formation questions. The other version is just like, even if there's no way to determine that ballots like have a substantial impact on subjects, the like very minute risk that they do over an extended period of time means that you should vote negative, because if it's a question of like the model that we use to evaluate these debates, then we should, like a very tiny risk that an ethical stance is good. I guess you could do some of the, yeah, I mean, I think that that's probably that. A lot of teams are dipping into like the micro affirmations literature, which I just think is not, I haven't read a lot of it, but I don't think that would be really your flavor of doing any of these things. Which is why I was just kind of shocked this wasn't just, they screwed up the security K.
Yeah.
And they conceded the alt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. I guess the only other thing is, was this the right 2NR? Like, if it had been the correct 2NR on the K versus the counterplan.
I think it was the correct 2NR. I didn't wade into counterplan questions. I think I was surprised that it was the 2NR, because I thought that you were just going to go into the weeds on some of these counterplan questions. But I haven't thought about them enough. I think you are correct. They've misdiagnosed the K early in the debate, and going for it makes sense. I'm wondering what were you worried about, and why did you not go for the counterplan?
I thought that I don't think it was like a big issue with the counterplan. I just felt like the K2NR was like
Cleaner.
easier and cleaner, but I guess like not a major issue.
Yeah, I mean, I guess considering the amount of prep that we have at the end of the debate, I can understand why trying to get out of the weeds on some of these counterplan questions would feel messier. I don't know, I think you probably could have done either.
Yeah. Evan? Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you think like the explanation of why like framework obviates like the turnscape stuff was like sufficient, or like do you think I should have spent more time on that?
Yeah, I think it is sufficient. I don't think I do think that that's kind of the remaining question, right? Is you just have to get out of some of this, like, the direction of we've won the framework debate, we have to win an external piece of offense at ways. Yeah, no, I think you spent sufficient amount of time. Yeah.
I actually had one question, sorry.
Yeah.
When you say the 2NR should have been alt link stuff,
Yeah.
So the framework interp, so I understood it was like, it must be causal links, so was the 2NR you wanted there, like, presumption, then you're dissat essentially?
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah. It makes sense.